What was meant to be a night of celebration on New Orleans' famous Bourbon Street turned into a New Year's Day tragedy. More than a dozen killed after an attacker drove a pickup truck through the crowded street. That attacker, a former Army veteran with ties to the Houston area, has left many grappling with questions about what led to this attack. We'll dive into the investigation, hear from those who knew him, and explore what this means for public safety right here at home. Hello, I'm Trayson Bragg. Thanks for joining us on this KHOU 11 Plus special. We begin with the timeline of the attack and its aftermath. CBS News reporter Nicole Valdez takes us to New Orleans.
We have dozens of people that got hit by this car.
Frantic messages from first responders in New Orleans just moments after a man drove his truck through crowds celebrating the new year on the city's famed Bourbon Street.
You just heard this squeal and like the rev of an engine and then this huge loud impact and then the people screaming.
The FBI has identified the attacker as 42-year-old Army veteran Shamsuddin Jabbar, a U.S. citizen who lived in Texas. Agents say after he rammed the crowd, the suspect exited what appeared to be a rented Ford truck and fired at police. He was killed in the gunfight. 2 officers were wounded.
We are working with our partners to investigate this as an act of terrorism. We do not believe that Jabbar was solely responsible. We are aggressively running down every lead.
The FBI says they found an ISIS flag on the suspect's vehicle and possible improvised explosive devices there and in the city's French Quarter.
Mere hours before the attack, he posted videos on social media indicating that he was inspired by ISIS, expressing a desire to kill.
These are just some of the victims who died in the attack, including 28-year-old former Princeton University football star Tiger Besh.
He was a stand-up guy that we really respected and honored.
Later today, the Sugar Bowl is set to kick off at the nearby Superdome after it was postponed due to yesterday's horrific attack.
Shamsuddin Jabbar was a Texas native with deep connections to the Houston area. As investigators dig into his past, those who knew him are left shocked and searching for answers. Here's a closer look at the man behind the act of terror.
A shelf inside his Cypress area home holds many of Trevor Neal's military mementos, including from a stint at the former Fort Gordon in Georgia, where he first met Shamsuddin Jabbar, who everyone knew as Sham.
You know, he's a normal individual, no red flags, great soldier, phenomenal friend.
Like Sham, Neal settled in the Houston area after the Army.
Born and raised in Beaumont, Texas.
And thought his old friend was doing well until this week's shocking news.
I was absolutely floored. I buckled up and I couldn't talk for 20 or 30 seconds. I was just, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
He can't imagine what may have led Jabbar to want to hurt so many innocent civilians after honorably serving his country.
And it's very unfortunate that he took that path.
It's a path family friends in Beaumont, where Jabbar graduated from high school in 2001, cannot comprehend either.
Just surprised because this is not how we knew Shamsuddin.
This man, who did not want to be shown on camera, spoke with our sister station after meeting with Jabbar's family.
And I just arrived here to mention my condolences, my sadness, my shock and anger a little bit.
Including at whomever, he says, may have influenced his friend.
To think that such an acts that he did were okay. It's not okay.
With the attacker's ties to our community, the spotlight is on how local authorities are preparing to safeguard Houston during major events. Global counterterrorism expert James Conway shares how agencies work together to protect soft targets and large crowds.
But we're ready to continue to host large-scale events in our city because we are built to host at every single turn.
The mayor of New Orleans saying her city is ready to move forward with major events after the New Year's Bourbon Street attack. The city of Houston is no stranger to preparing for such events.
We have task forces, of which HPD, DPS, Harris County, all of the law enforcement, we all work seamlessly together on those counterterrorism efforts. It has to be done that way in order to be successful.
James Conway is a global counterterrorism expert, a former FBI agent, and now with a Houston-based security consulting firm.
And the planning and the preparation for those events starts taking place about a year ahead of time. And basically, a lot of the templates are put in place in terms of what kind of security do we need, Who's going to be responsible for what?
Conway says law enforcement also gathers intelligence to determine threat levels for major events. But he says soft targets like Bourbon Street and nightlife spots in Houston cannot always be hardened and may require the public to take their own steps to stay safe.
Is the word I use in the business is situational awareness. You know what? Put this thing away, take your face out of it, and pay attention to what's going on. You know, you're going to an event, a game or something, put your head on a swivel and pay attention to what's going on around you.
Amid the chaos, misinformation about Shamsuddin Jabbar's background has been spreading online. So we dug deeper into his past and his connection to our region, while Brandon Lewis with our Verified team set the record straight about his citizenship.
Following the New Year's terror attack in New Orleans, misinformation circulated, as it often does in the wake of big events. Some initial reports appeared to indicate the attacker may have been in the country illegally, prompting some people to blame ineffective border security. A viewer texted us to ask if President-elect Donald Trump said the suspect was an undocumented immigrant. Federal investigators identified U.S. citizen and Texas resident Shamsuddin Jabbar as the man who intentionally drove a truck through the Bourbon Street celebration. He was also a U.S. Army veteran. Here's how the misinformation about the attacker's citizenship appears to have started. On Wednesday morning, Fox News reported the suspect's truck crossed the U.S. border in Eagle Pass, Texas, quote, 2 days ago, implying that the attacker may not have been in the country legally.
This person came through Eagle Pass, Texas 2 days ago, okay?
Shortly after, Trump posted on Truth Social saying criminals coming into the U.S. are more dangerous than the ones living in it. His son, Don Jr., added on X, Biden's gift to America, migrant terrorists. Following the FBI's confirmation that Jabbar was a U.S. citizen and the truck he was driving was a rental, Fox News issued a retraction, adding, quote, the identification of the driver that crossed the border does not appear to be the shooter. We will get more clarification. But that didn't stop the misinformation about the attacker's citizenship from continuing to circulate online, and the posts by Trump and his son have not been deleted. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
You've got to start sifting through those pieces.
That's the task ahead as investigators unravel the life of Shamsuddin Jabbar, from the terror on Bourbon Street to his childhood in Beaumont.
I'm just shocked.
Where a high school classmate remembered him as well-spoken and smart.
I mean, you just wouldn't think that he would do something like this.
This is not how we knew Shamsuddin.
A friend of the family, also floored by the news.
I'd love to get my hands on whoever influenced him.
After high school, records show Jabbar married and divorced 3 times, had at least 3 children, and served in the Army from 2007 to 2020. Leaving as a staff sergeant.
I'm Shamsuddin Jabbar, property manager with Blue Meadow Properties.
The same year, Jabbar posted this YouTube video about a real estate career in Houston, a business he later reported a $28,000 loss, along with past due house payments of $27,000 he listed in divorce proceedings. In 2022, his wife accused Jabbar of excessive cash withdrawals, gifts to paramours, and unreasonable spending. Months later, records show he was evicted from an apartment in Cyprus.
We are looking in everything in his life.
The FBI executed a search warrant at Jabbar's latest home in North Harris County. Investigators have not yet reported what they found inside or whether any of those pieces will help solve the puzzle of how this native Texan and Army veteran pledged allegiance to the Islamic State.
That's the stuff in the coming days as far as that path to radicalization that we're really going to be digging into and making a priority.
Finally, we return to Bourbon Street, where the city is finding strength to move forward despite the heartbreak. Matt Doherty shares how the community is healing after tragedy struck so close to home.
One day after tragedy shot through the heart of the French Quarter, New Orleans is trying to return to normal. Sunshine lit the path down Bourbon Street when it reopened this afternoon as visitors slowly started to return. And the bands began to play.
The city's been built, the state's been built on a mixture of tragedy and revelation and happiness. I mean, the two go kind of hand in hand.
But one look around is all it took to see that in 24 hours everything had changed. Officers are on every corner and on the street, Seemingly impenetrable blockades have popped up overnight.
I was shocked when I woke up.
Connie and her husband Todd are visiting from Chicago. They got back to their hotel about an hour before everything happened yesterday.
You can't let the terrorists win. You gotta keep on living life.
At 3:15 a.m. on New Year's Day, 42-year-old Shamsuddin Jabbar began his path of death at the intersection of Canal and Bourbon Streets. Tonight, the 14 people he killed are represented by the same number of yellow roses and wooden crosses at this growing memorial against a brick wall. It's where much of the dancing on Bourbon Street has been replaced with tears.
Oh, we were right here, like just before it happened.
Albert Fuentes is from Baytown. He came to New Orleans with a few of his fellow Navy sailors to celebrate New Year's Eve. He says the fact that Jabbar is a veteran makes it even harder to understand.
I don't really have words to describe what I feel. I think it's the best thing. The best way I can put it is I feel a little upset, a little ashamed, but it kind of goes to show that, like, you really don't know what people are capable of anymore these days.
Tonight, New Orleans is trying to move forward, forgetting never, taking their first steps toward dancing again. Not because they want to, but because they say they have to.
Our hearts are with the victims and their families, as well as everyone in New Orleans working to heal. Thank you for joining us on KHOU 11 Plus. Take care of yourselves and each other.